will brief the organizing committee first. So we are IEEE PES student branch chapter at the University of Manchester. We are based within the Department of Electrical and Electronic Engineering at the University of Manchester. The committee was formed in 2012, and we has had over 100 student members. And we are one of the best performing student branches in the UK and Republic of Ireland PES chapter. And this can be reflected by the achievement. We got many awards for our student branch and the activities hosted by our student branch. And please follow our websites and social media so that to be get noticed for the future events. And these are the committee members. Now we have 8 student members and 1 academic advisor with the university. And now, Elena, you can take over from me.
Hello, everyone. A huge welcome on behalf of the Women in Power in UK and Ireland. I have to say it is a great honor to be part of this IEEE PES Day celebration, especially as we have 3 female speakers this time. Dr. Jessica Bian, who is the present IEEE PES President-elect, and Professors Lina Bertling-Tjernberg and Edwina Uzunovic, who have been active members of PES for years now. And I'm sure we will learn a lot from them today. Our Women in Power Committee in UK and Ireland is relatively small, but we have already organized several events, and we hope to have many more to come. Hopefully, we will have more physical meetings in the future, not only online events. And here you can see some of the links to our social media. You can follow our events, and we also always welcome any new members. So be free also to suggest any types of events you would be interested in, or suggest any people you would like to hear from. So we are here and open to any collaboration. Thank you very much. I will let Yi now continue and introduce our first speaker of the day. Thank you.
So this will be the program of today. We have 3 speakers delivering 3 talks. Without further ado, let's go into the first talk by Dr. Jessica Bian on PES Women in Power Initiative. So Dr. Jessica Bian is the president-elect of the IEEE Power and Energy Society. She was the PES secretary from 2016 to 2019. She is a visionary leader and architect, has spearheaded electric industry's reliability matrix and grid risk assessment. Currently, she is the vice president of grid services at GridX Partners. So Dr. Jessica Bian, you can take over from me to start your presentation.
Thank you, Kenny and Jelani. And let me say that I wanted to say there are a lot of giants here. I actually followed Lina's footsteps, and she was the PS secretary before me, and I literally kind of took her position. So this actually directly ties to what we're trying to say. And over the 130-year PS history, so far we have 3 PS presidents, including myself. I'm still not a president yet, but 3 has been elected over the 130 years. And guess what? This coming year, this next election, we will have all female candidates. So congratulations, Lina. I don't know if Edwina is here as well. So please join us. It doesn't have to be a woman. It's not like a gender, but it's just involvement and following the giants like Lina and Edwina. And we had Wanda and Wanda Reader and Noah Schultz. Those are the 2 former PS presidents. So, and also today is Earth Day, so happy Earth Day, and future is all yours. So I'm so glad that your student branch chapter has won many awards. I know you had a great leadership under Professor Javita. Now you have Jelena and others, and this will carry, and it's a wonderful, exciting time. And you all know that, and in your place, in my place, and around the world, everybody is celebrating. So and thank you for picking this great day and to have this talk. All right, so before I start, let me go to my, share my screen, right? So we tested early. This will stop other share. Do you want, so this says it will stop other screen sharing. Do you want to continue? I would say yes, right?
Please continue.
Okay.
Yes.
So the topic is, I want to say it's a platform, the Women Empower platform is a platform to help us to prepare the future leaders, like myself, like Lena, Advina, and all the previous one, like all of you. And so this is a very relevant topic. And I know, I mean, Women in Power has been kind of the movement for all the last 50 or 60 years. So let me get my full screen here. So I was a president-elect. Actually, I mean, even Lena knows that as the PES, as part of the leadership team, we travel around the world. We also have a distinguished lectures. And so this was the one that I was in Mexico, and one of the students, same thing, student branch chapter, we had a picture together, we had a talk, and we had a picture together. You can tell there's a co-chair of the student branch chair, and this lady, these two are the both of the chairs of the student group. So she was the sponsor of the group, was a professor there. So this is me, and like I said, we had a great time together and talk about the future. We're all excited about this whole industry, about the environment, and how we slow down the climate change. Overall, the PES, we hit 40,000 membership mark last year. And over the last 15 years, our membership has doubled. So you can tell from smart grid, climate change, clean energy, you name it, it helped our membership to grow. So I want to thank every one of you to make this possible. So here's a chart. And then the Women in Power, we formed this particular group. IEEE has Women in Engineering. And so, but we, Power, PES, and Power Energy Society form our own special affinity group called Women in Power. Well, there are two meanings, right? Women in Power because we're in the power and energy industry. Another special meaning is Women in Power. We like to see leadership from our women's side, and more. I will touch on that later on. This was formed in 2012 at GM, at the general meeting. I remember that we had a first reception and first talk, and then there are 3 tables set up. I was there, and Wanda and Shay. So we started this group, and now we have more than 1,000 members. And like I said, the mission is to help to raise all the ladies into the leadership position. Of course, I mean, when I say ladies, that actually has a broader term. We include all the genders. And also it serves as a networking and mentorship a platform. This is how we started. We had 3 tables, and we offered, because some of them came from government and from academia or from industry. So this is how we connected with the students or young professionals. And if they have a question, career questions, and we would offer our view and our experience. So that's how we started in 2012. Again, this is not just for women. Anyone that needs help and anyone wanted to join the Women in Power, and please do. And we do have a lot of gentlemen in our group as well. I'm not going to run through that. You have my slide deck. Essentially, again, this is try to promote you, and we keep that in mind. And you can see we want to make this faster and quicker. So we want to see more women leadership at IEEE and PES team. And now I want to focus on 3 areas that we're trying to promote. The technical activities and publications and meetings. There are 7 major areas. Lena knows we have membership, chapters, technical activities, publications, and meetings. These 3 areas have been historically dominated by a male gender. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just we want to promote more women be in the leadership position. The last year, women in engineering from IEEE, they started pledge, and we adopted, the PES governing board adopted. So they wanted, the PES, here's the pledge, supports inclusion of diverse set of speakers, which will lead to more creative, interesting, representative panels across the PES and pledge. We want to have all the PES meetings and conferences, chapter events, we like to have a different sex panels. And that's the pledge. So we're trying to, like the general meeting, the plenary session, the super sessions, at least we want to have one lady as a speaker, as a panelist. So we have been doing that for the last couple of years. So I'm going to go to the technical committee. So we know here's the one version of the future grid, right? You could have your own dream grid, more friendly, more flexible. And right now it's affordable, it's reliable, but is it flexible, resilient, or nice looking? Probably we're not there. So what would be the next better version of the grid? And let's make it happen, right? So from the technical activity side, PES has these 20 committees, and we look at the data. More than 95% of the committee members are male. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with it. We just want to have more females add our voice, our needs into these committees. So this is one area we need a lot of ladies into these committees. The publication, we have, all that. We have tons of transactions and magazines. Only one editor-in-chief so far. And she became the editor-in-chief this year, only this year. So out of all these years, we never had a editor-in-chief, a lady editor-in-chief. So we need you. So please, if you like to be author, writer, and if you like play with the words, and we need you and to be editor-in-chief. We have lots of editors we have been promoting. So we have 15% of lady editors so far, but we only right now have one brand new one editor-in-chief. A lot of other things we're doing, Lena knows as well, and Advina actually helped to set up the Outstanding Student Scholarship when she was the VP Education. We view this as the Rhodes Scholar, and 10,000 prize each year for master students around the world. So please look into that, and we like you to have your professor or your peers to support you on this and to be selected. And we also have these awards for students as well. And there are 3 initiatives. We are always looking for connections and get you involved with Smart Grid program. You probably heard this a lot. We also have a Smart Cities and Smart Village. And another the book that I read recently was kind of inspiring. It was 60 Women at the Forefront of Climate Movement. So if you have time, have interest, and please read this book. And like you said, you can, and especially these are the leaders in our industry, and it's a fascinating stories about how they lead and how they push the climate movement forward. And that's all I have. And so get connected with your alumni association or with the PES, Women in Power, or Young Professional Technical Committee. We need you because climate change is not an island alone. It needs all of us and to chime in, to collaborate, to partner together, and to slow down the change. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Jessica. Thanks a lot. This is a really good presentation. And do we have any comments or questions for Jessica? If no, I will carry on because this is not a technical talk from Jessica, and I suppose it is okay if we continue, if we carry on with the next talk. So our next talk will be delivered by Professor Edvina Uznovic on IEEE PES and education. Professor Edvina Uznovic has over 20 years of experience in the power system industry and academia. She was a vital contributor to the success of several leading power industry organizations, ranging from utilities to manufacturing. She fulfilled different roles as a technical officer, senior quantitative analyst, and a senior R&D engineer. Professor Edvina, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. I'm excited, very excited to be here. So good afternoon, everybody.
Welcome, welcome.
Okay, I'll have to tell you a little secret. This is the first time in I don't know how many days that I put some makeup on. So, and so that's the kind of reality that we are living these days. But let me switch to my screen.
Yes. Can you try to share your screen, please?
Yes.
Professor Edvina, you are not the only one, I have to say.
And I'll tell you, you don't see, but I have sweatpants on me. So good afternoon to you. It is good morning to me, and it is full snowstorm outside where I am right now. It is unbelievable, but the good news I read this morning on BBC, I follow BBC, that our US President Biden has committed to 50% of emission reduction by 2030. That is that is really, really huge, and very happy about it, that we are moving towards the better days, as this is really getting kind of worrisome, really. So here we go. Let's go back a bit. I've been around for like 20 something years professionally, right? And I was the lucky one that I had 15 years in industry and plus academia. And this is kind of unusual because I would assume that most of you are grad students, aren't you? I would assume. And the rule is, if you go after your PhD to industry, it's really hard to come back to academia if you want to teach, right? Because in industry, you're more into the projects, some technical papers, but not really papers, and publications are not really your basically goal, right? However, I was a lucky one because the climate is changing, and that's the whole point that I want to get across to you, that these days academia is actually likes to hire past industry leaders into academia because they bring a kind of reality to academia. So right now I'm a WPI, I'm professor there at ECE department, but most of the time I teach graduate level courses to industry, like ISO New England, like Eversource. Those are big companies in the Northeast of the United States. So that is the good news. Now let's switch to PES. Well, like many of you, I started as a graduate student because PES was the way to publish your papers, right, with your professors. That was something that was normal. And I published my first paper. It was on HVDCs, I believe. And I was the lucky one because my mentor was really into the PES. some professors are not really into kind of PES organizations, volunteerings and such. But however, he was, and I started actually as a graduate student, he took us to a couple of conferences, right? What we needed to pay, and I believe you know that, it is just the traveling cost. Other than that, everything is provided by PES. And we organize poster sessions for the students. This is the kind of the first thing that you can do, present your work and actually get some kind of feeling that, well, I can do that, right? So that's what I did. And interestingly enough, my first job actually came through those channels. I presented my poster paper. I got a little award, which was really nice. And then at that time, the company, Utility New York Power Authority, approached me and they said, I'm looking for a job. I was like finishing PhD at that time. I said, yeah. I gave my resume. They invited me for an interview, and that's how I landed my first job in New York City. I mean, really, I was out of my mind. I was so happy. Hey, I'm living in New York City. I'm paying everything by myself. I am independent woman. That was huge. And then I changed a couple of jobs after being RNTD engineer, senior RNTD with the NIPA. I moved to Midwest, United States Midwest. I actually worked in the front office as a quantitative analyst, basically selling transmission rights. I wanted to know what's happening in the electricity markets, right? How that works. Then I came back to Northeast and I landed a job with the WPI. Really, really good, because as a working woman, it's sometimes hard, but not impossible to kind of have private life, have a husband, 2 kids and a dog. If he barks, that's him, Pepper. And they, in the same time, have a really successful career. So it is kind of juggling. And at that time, it was really good to get a kind of steady job in the academia environment. Really, really good. And so let's go back, then switch to IEEE. It is the largest professional association in the world. There are 39 technical societies, PES only one of them, but however, we are the second largest after the Communication Technical Society. And we pride ourselves as one of the very, very active ones. We are basically leaders in so many things that are happening in the IEEE. They look into us and they see what we are doing. We are global, right? 190 plus countries all around the world. We organize conferences, we publish papers, and we also some top-sided periodicals. You are familiar with that. I don't need to go into that. I wanted to actually do this presentation to simply give you a little overview of how PES and IEEE is working, right? Because as a student, I was really not into that. I didn't understand that. For me, PES was just, okay, a place where you publish your papers, right? But it is much more than that. It's really much more than that. And as I said, we are global. And these are the regions within the IEEE. Region 1 through 6 is United States. 7 is Canada. 8, it is where you are, which is Europe, Africa, and piece of Asia. And 9 is South America, and 10 is Southeast Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. And as I said, our PES is very strong, second largest, very active. Currently, we have 40,000 members, give or take, right? And our current president is Frank Lambert, to be succeeded by Jessica next year. Is it Jess next year? I believe it is. So let me tell you how that works, right? Every 2 years, we have elections for the president-elect. And then president-elect serves for 2 years as a president-elect to move on to full president. And then after 2 years of president goes into the past president. So basically, when you go into that road, it is a 6 years commitment. And I heard some other presidents saying, okay, my job is actually PES. And what I do, I mean, really for my company, it's kind of like on a side, because it is really a huge commitment, and we are trying to do so many things, and we are very active and basically leaders in the IEEE. So IEEE PES is divided into some kind of portions, depending on the subject of interest. From 2016 to 2020, I was PES Vice President Education. In addition to me, we had the vice presidents for the publications, for the vice presidents for the membership and images, new initiatives, outreach, and obviously technical activities. That's our kind of prize. Technical activities that has a number of subcommittees underneath, like standard development, technical committees, coordinating committees, so many things. Another thing that I wanted to tell you something, again, from my own experience. I'm not saying that that is just related to women. I think that all of us are kind of having that kind of problems once when you go as a student or young professional, right? And then there are some, you're going to, let's say, general meeting. That's the best thing, right? Once a year we have that general meeting. You go there, it's like a zoo, 3,000 people around. T&Ds is actually much larger. Last time we had, I think 12,000 people. 12,000 people, it's huge, it's really huge. And as a young professional, I felt kind of like, oh my God, to go to one of the meetings, let's say for the fax devices, that was my kind of area of interest. And all those big names around you, right? First of all, I thought that somebody needs to invite me to that committee, really, which is not true. I mean, if you are interested, you go to that meeting and you sit down and listen, and after listening, you start speaking up, right? But measure words, that's what I do actually. I kind of rehearse in my head what I wanted to say, and then I say it, right? So nobody needs to invite you. All our meetings are open for public. So don't be shy, go there, sit down, listen, speak up. As I said, record number of professionals and students, 40,000 members, and then we have, we basically divide our kind of chapters into the professional chapters, meaning when you get a job and you get a professional, you go there, right? But in addition to that, we have many student sections and chapters. And that's the place where you actually start working as a graduate student or undergrad student. That's really, I have to say this, and I say that quite openly. I think going to PES and kind of going to those committees and participating and listening, I found my own voice. Really helped me to say my story, to lead, to learn. It's really incredible experience that first of all you do as a volunteer, and then later on, very easily you actually introduce that to your job. You really truly become a leader. Because presenting is not just having a good topic. Presenting is actually knowing how to present, what to say, not to be shy, not to be panicky in that kind of time. It's everything takes time to learn. And this is really area where you can learn how to present, how to speak up and to lead eventually. So that is it. Global membership growth, we are really growing. And the good thing is actually that we are truly becoming a global society. In the past, regions 1 through 6 were the ones that were kind of leading in a way, if I may say so. Because currently 41% of our members are coming from United States. However, with the growth of, especially growth of student chapters, we find our way into the world. And if this pandemic taught us something, is the fact that, hey, I don't need to be really present physically there, right? Because traveling to say GM or one of those conferences, that it takes time, takes money, everything, right? But now with this kind of Zoom, that is kind of in academia, I figured out, most of the utilities here, they actually prefer MS Teams. All these kind of applications helps us to see each other, to talk to each other, to actually get close. And this is something that we should actually follow in the future, to attract and to promote more diversity in the PES, in terms of not only gender, but also in terms of religion or whatever, right? In the parts of the world, right? That's also something that is really important. I mean, it doesn't have to be United States. Could be from anywhere in the world. And actually the beauty of it, the most growth that we see is actually in the Southeast Asia in terms of the student chapters. Really active. They really want to connect with the world. And that is something that is driving them up. And it is good to see. Publications, well, you know that. And I actually, particularly out of those publications, I like Power and Energy magazine, because it does present everything in a kind of down to earth. This is the way where I actually start reading about something that is not area of my expertise, right? You learn a bit about it, and then you go to the transaction papers and then continue educating yourself. Continuous education is something that is going to be big. And I'm saying that with a confidence, because if you look at that, let's say undergrads, right? Undergrad syllabus and program, first 2 years is basically just general courses, math, physics, right? And after that, you have 2 years of senior level courses where you can actually get some kind of expertise. However, you don't have a really time to teach all those courses, say in power systems. Simply don't have time. However, if you go into the master's program, then you actually have a number of graduate level courses in power systems. And I would say that if after the Second World War, undergrads was kind of must, right? A bachelor degree was like, if you really want to succeed in your life, bachelor degree. I would say that we actually moved up to a master's degree. If you really continue professionally speaking, be active and recognize, you have to have at least master's degree. It is in industry, and I had actually couple of experiences going to some meetings and all that. And in the past, power utilities were kind of mostly men, really, like 50 something. And they had their own world, didn't really go follow what is happening in the world. And the guy would actually say, well, we don't hire in utility PhDs. They are kind of, we don't need them. Master is like kind of okay, but we are looking for undergrad students simply because, mind you, PhD costs, right? If you're looking into the salary scale, it's as you're going from a bachelor's to master's to PhD, well, the salary grows, right? So they're looking into that. But however, luckily, because everything that is happening in the power systems with all those inclusions of communications, IT, big data analysis. I mean, just imagine big data analysis, how many data these days average utility collects. Huge, right? So now they're looking into the big data analytics. They need people doing that. And do you find them with undergrads? I don't think so. You have to mostly have a PhD in that, and then they start hiring PhDs. So this is good. This is really, really changing. And I remember the days when I was just starting and I would go to the meeting, it's like 50 guys, 15 guys, like 50 something, and I'm like kind of the only woman sitting there, right, like this. And but now it's changing. When I go to a meeting, there are a number of ladies and then present, and it's really refreshing, and it's helping PES globally. Okay, what we need to know about the PES is that 40+ of all standards that IEEE publishes are coming from the PES. Just to think about renewables and our standard 1547, we were able actually to get into that and publish standard within 5 years or so, which is really unheard of. You really have to be active. You have to volunteer, to lead, to write, to get the people together. And I'm really proud to say that most of those standards are coming from PES. That speaks a lot about us. So going back to this continuing education, as I said, this is going to be a big deal. When I started as a VPA Vice President Education, the first thing that came to my mind, talking to especially Pat Ryan, he was really our executive director. He was really unbelievable. Talking to him, we actually came up with the idea to start this continuing education page. And then gradually, we actually named it PES University. But this is the place where you can go and find the latest webinars and tutorials and plain talks. We are really active in bringing new documents, webinars, tutorials to our PES members. Mind you, all these webinars are free of charge to PES members. For some tutorials, we do charge because we also have some costs that we have to kind of get some money on. And so check that out, that webpage, PES University, and see what is happening. PES University is organized into a number of subcommittees. Subcommittee for webinars, subcommittee for tutorials, and what we are really proud of is a subcommittee that is looking into the quality of our products. So you cannot just go and publish whatever you want under the PES name. Has to be reviewed and say, okay, it is our up to our PES standards. So basically, then you can present. It is easy. And this is the first time actually that was done, that if you want to volunteer, you can send your resume basically online and say, I would be willing to volunteer with you. And so we get lots of people that way. Basically, it's almost like a job, right? No matter where you are, you send your resume, people read your resume and they say, okay, this guy is or girl or is up to standard. So that's the way to do it. And we also try to refresh our committees quite often. I was a chair for this PES University for, I would say, 3 years. And then I moved back and I got a new chair for PES University. So you don't have the same guy sitting there for 10 years, right? It has to be moving. We have to get new people, new ideas, new energy. So that's what PES University is doing. Another thing that you should pay attention is a PES Resource Center. You can imagine it almost like our book, right? And that book is organized into the chapters. A big deal is actually to organize everything and put them in a proper channel, such that, let's say, what we are trying to do, if somebody does a webinar or tutorial for us, you have to assign some kind of description to that tutorial saying, okay, this is like a beginner level, this is the expert level, this is intermediate level. So when you start reading the chapters of that book, you know where to start, right? Another thing that we are really trying to do is accreditation. Because let's say in the United States, to continue being a professional engineer, you have to have every year a number of courses taken, basically number of CE units accredited to you. So if we do that, if we really, but the trick is, it's not just the United States, we have to get accreditation for the whole world. It's almost like an ABET when you think about it, right? I say ABET because it is recognized throughout the world as a kind of a standard for university courses. Something like that, we need to get recognition such that if people from, let's say, India take a course, right? They can actually claim, I don't know, number of units of continuing education for them and get that towards the, let's say, status of professional engineer. This is really something that needs to be done. And I believe when you look at the PES, right, in the past, most of the time, where we get the money as a PES to continue working on all these new initiatives, a portion of money was coming from the conferences, right? And also from our papers. You would get this transaction, it will come to you every, I don't know, 3 months or so, and you would read it. And I have like huge stock these days of those transaction papers. Nobody does that any longer. I talked to my daughter and she says, I said, did you buy the book? I don't need a book, mommy. What do you mean you don't need a book? Well, I have everything online. Myself, I still need some kind of hard copy to read it. It's just a question of what you are used to it. So younger generation, actually, they can read from the computer. They feel very comfortable with it. So when you actually move that into the money making, right, might actually dry up. So you still have to think about a way of continue getting money for all new initiatives that we are doing. And one of them is actually what I see is PES Resource Center. I mean, mind you, for universities, and that's the beauty for my university, I would just go to my library online and I'll get everything what I need. But if you are professional, you would just sign up for, let's say, conference papers, a couple of transactions for the conference papers, you have to pay additional, right? So this is a way actually for us to continue being very, very good professionally in terms of money and then the new initiatives. So now a little bit of preach why you should go to PES. And I'm saying it from the bottom of my heart. This is not really something that I'm trying to sell. It did help me tremendously. I mean, really tremendously in my career. As I said, I found my voice. I actually landed my first job through PES. I actually got this job through my connections through PES because I was serving on a committee with the lady that actually helped me out to interview for this job. So if I need any kind of advice and I go online and I search, let's say, microgrids, right? I get a number of white papers, webinars, tutorials coming to me. But not only that, if I need someone else to really give me an advice or problem solving, right? You have colleagues that you met at one of those conferences and you just shoot an email, say, hey, I'm dealing with this, can you help me out? It is a really way for you to find your professional path. And I strongly encourage you to go towards that, to become active. Don't be just like kind of like, okay, my paper I published and that's it. Get active. That is going to help you. Okay. So this is just to let you know, if you didn't know by now, PEEC stands for the, okay, let me see if I can remember on the spot. Power and Energy Education Committee. There you go. And as the name says, it does deal with education, and one of the subcommittees are dealing with the student post-accession and housing. As I said, this is the first time I actually went to the conference because I needed to pay just the traveling cost. The rest of it was covered by PES. I found a number of student colleagues that I actually carried to my professional life. Later on, when I became a professional, I'm still in touch with them and I still talk to them and I know them, right? And in the region 1 through 6, the major ones that we actually sponsor for students is general meeting. It happens end of July. In the past, it was basically beginning of August, but we are moving back to end of July because, again, as a global society, I know that Italy is out of the work beginning of August, right? Nobody wants to go there, right? They're on vacation. So we found out that the best time for general meeting is end of July. TND conference, and this is our largest conference. As I said last time was, I don't know, is it 12,000 or 14,000 attendees? Really huge. And now we are into the problem of finding suitable place that will have a hall big enough to accept us all, because it is not just attendees. A number of manufacturers throughout the world, they come up and they bring their own equipment and they present it there. So you can just go around and see different equipment and talk to those vendors and say, okay, what are you doing? What is happening? North American Power Symposium, that is open to you as well. Again, we pay the housing and meals and organization, everything you have to pay for the travels. It's North American Power Symposium. This is actually the symposium that is organized, geared towards the students. To get your paper accepted, obviously a little bit lower students standards than as you would go to the GM present, but this is the place where students can present for the first time their own papers, right? To break the ice. That's happened to me, and I believe many other people were presented at the North American Power Symposium, and that was like a big deal. And after that, you are kind of moving up in the world. And we award 3 top winners with a little bit of cash and certificate recognizing the paper and work. Okay, this is something that is actually interesting, and you should look into that. This is, we started this with, this is our PES Outstanding Student Scholarship. This is our one of the biggest scholarships that we are doing it. And we are really want to go up like a Rhodes Scholar. That's the whole idea for us. The award is actually quite substantial. It's $10,000 for students. And we assign like 20 awards for that particular year. It happens annually. And the prize funds, they do not go through university or through any other channel. They go directly to the students. So it can help you with your housing, it can help you with your books, whatever you need, right? Because getting a degree, going to the university, it's a really big expense, especially in the United States. It's scholarship tuitions like $50,000, right? You find really almost prohibiting in some cases. So that's something that we would like to help out with. However, you cannot just go and nominate yourself. It has to be IEEE professional member, senior member that can actually can nominate you. And obviously you have to work with that person to put all your credentials into on a piece of paper. I did this, I did that. But what we are looking is actually all kind of well-formed person that, in addition to being very good in their studies, they have to be also willing to volunteer, to go outside and basically make this world much better place than it is right now. So that's what we are looking for. And only full-time students who are pursuing Masters of Science degree in electrical engineering or equivalent designation, because it is a global, right? It is those individuals can actually apply for this. PhDs are not eligible because it's really hard to put on the same kind of page master's degree and PhD students in terms of technical knowledge and presentation and papers and all that. Am I taking too much time? Let me know. Oh, I'm coming to the end. Okay, good. So this is something that we started, the Scholarship Plus initiative that we started in the United States. Because we noticed that actually not so many students are going into the engineering. And I believe this is something that is happening throughout the world, not in some countries. But generally speaking, yes, not so many students are going into the EEC because hands down, it is hard. I'm not going to, I mean, you know that, right? It takes dedication, it takes time, it takes basically strength to go through your undergrad and then move on up, right? So to encourage students from the United States to go towards that path, we started this Scholarship Plus initiative. This plus stands from, in addition to receiving a scholarship, the students also have to go and find a job in the summer months, right? With the power industry. And plus you get a mentor as well. And as I said, PES puts seed money. However, the rest of it should be coming from, and it is coming from, the United States industry. This initiative was followed by Italy. They do the same thing, right? They also received some PES seed money to start the initiative, and then the rest of it is coming through from their industry to distribute those scholarships. In India and Puerto Rico. United Kingdom, I'm not sure they do that. They actually don't do that. However, you can start it. Nothing stops you. You have to have basically a professor that is really into it and is willing to, in addition to your volunteering, is he or she is also volunteering for it, because you need access to industry. And something that also I forgot to put is actually we started in 2018 high school scholarship initiative. Basically, we invite high school students to present a poster together with our students and to come to T&D and basically see what we are doing, see those transformers. Actually, it was transformer that got me into this area. At my university, they had a lab back in Sarajevo. I'm coming from Bosnia and Herzegovina, former Yugoslavia. And we had a lab, high voltage lab, and I heard transformer for the first time. And it's like that hum that is coming. It's pure energy. And then I found something really, really interesting. And that's how I ended up in power systems, as they say. Okay, if you have questions, here I am.
I would like to comment if no one has any questions for now. May I agree?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Professor Edwina, for sharing your insights and your personal story of the PES and how much it meant to you professionally. I have been part of the PES for a few years now, starting from my student membership, and I have also learned a lot. So thank you for that. I would like to ask you, although you have touched on that throughout your presentation, but what would be your advice to young professionals in industry on what are the main benefits of PES? Because as you probably know, unlike in the US, Europe is not, European industry is not so much involved with the PES. It is mostly about cigarette, for example. So yes. What would you say to people in industry, especially the young professionals? What would the PES give them?
Well, that's a very good question. You put me on the spot there.
Sorry.
But that's okay. No, it is true that actually PES in the past was perceived as academia society. And that's why many industries, especially European industries, they would go to cigarette, right? Because cigarette is industry. We are trying to change that. We are trying to change that because we'll say this time, in addition to this governing board, those VPs that I presented, there are also some people that are called industry representatives. Now we have chosen a lady that actually Italian, but worked in Sweden, and she's gonna actually work with us as a IEEE PES mostly in Europe to basically give our story out. But as for you, the beauty of this world, really, it is, everything is changing. If you have a right degree and you have a right knowledge, it doesn't mean necessarily you have to stay in Europe. truly, and I'm not trying to get you from there, right? You can find a job anywhere in the world. That's how I found my job. I never planned to be in the United States. I thought after my master's degree, I'm going to go back home and just fine, like I'm going to see my little bit of world and that's it. But didn't work out that well. Basically, I got a job in the United States, never planned it. So that's the beauty. If you have a right degree, if you're connected, you can find a job anywhere in the world and then gain enough knowledge and expertise that you can actually pick the job where you want to go. Because as I said, this is really getting to be a global village, our little globe. And when you think about power systems industry, it's actually quite small. I mean, when you go to a number of those conferences, meetings, you get to know so many people and you get to know them, like get to meet them again next year or a year after that, such that you really become a friend. So a pool of contacts is unbelievable. But again, the key is actually to get there. What helped me in my career, because paying the dues and also traveling costs is kind of expensive, right? If you're paying from your own pocket, you have to find a company that is willing to participate and willing to invest some money into young professionals. Such way they travel, they get to meet people, they learn a special kind of expertise that the company needs. And again, this is really a place where you can find your voice. And doesn't matter, United States, India, Africa, whatever, Europe, you found your voice. And from there, it's much easier to find a job.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. More questions? Okay. Well, you can always find me and send me an email. And I'll really try my best to respond immediately. If not, what I say to my students, I'm an email away from you. So there you go.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Uzinovic. I believe your thought you shared will be very inspiring to the students here in this event. And so before we move on to the next talk, I think we can have a 10 minutes break. So, you know, this Zoom meeting is kind of, sometimes we get fatigued and
I know that.
Have some stretch and have a cup of tea or something, and we come back in 10 minutes.
Yeah, this Zoom is actually really have a good name. You can simply zoom out at some point. So have a nice afternoon. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next session, Elena would like to share something to you.
Yes, that's me again. I just wanted to share with you a link to, just a second, please. I'll send it in the chat box. So it is a link to all the PES Day celebration events across the world, just to give you an insight of how widespread the IEEE PES is. So you will see the dots showing the different countries and different events happening either today or the days around the 22nd of April. Of course, not if a country is blank, it doesn't mean that they don't have any PES memberships there. It just means that they might be less active than the others. That is all that I wanted to share. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elena. So let's continue. We will have our third talk delivered by Professor Lina Bertling-Jernberg on sustainable power grids. Apologize for my pronunciation if I got it wrong. Sorry. So Professor Lina Bertling-Jernberg is a professor in power grid technology at KTH, the Royal Institute of Technology in Sweden. She is the director of the Energy Platform and is the coordinator of lifelong learning at the School of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science. Her research and teaching are focused on developments of the future sustainable electric power grid with a special interest in reliability analysis, predictive maintenance, and asset management. She is a senior member of IEEE and is a distinguished lecturer of IEEE PES. She has been the chair of the Swedish PEL chapter and has served the governing board of IEEE PES. Now, Professor Jambak, you can share your screen and deliver your presentation.
Thank you so much for this kind introduction. I will see if I can open my presentation. I think you need to stop
Yes,
sharing it. Yes. Okay, thank you so much.
Nice.
So hello everyone. It's very nice to see you all. So I have prepared a presentation I will show. And also thank you so much for Edwina and Jessica for your very inspiring presentation. So my speech will be a little bit different because I will talk about my working topic in the power grid technology. But as you heard in the introduction here, I also have a very long experience of working in the IEEE Power and Engineering Society. And I will try to save a little bit time so we can also take some questions. And I think it was really nice input that we could hear in the previous presentations. So I will then open my presentation here. Can everyone see my presentation now? Yes. Okay, so again, thank you for inviting me today to this very nice program. And I think you did a marvelous way of preparing this very nice seminar today. So thank you so much for that. I actually added a new figure in my presentation because I realized when I was listening that I wanted to get connected to the topic, technical topic. So I included one picture, and I thought this picture has a lot of symbolism in it. This is, as all of us know, last year and this year has been really challenging for us in traveling and meeting. But from my perspective, I had 2 business trips last year. Both of those trips were visiting the same company, and one trip was in Ludvika and one trip was in Västerås. And for me, the background in working in power grid, it has a very true passion in that we have a very long tradition in industry manufacture in Sweden. And this picture is taken for a very, very special occasion. It's in September last year. You wouldn't see it here, maybe carefully, but everyone that's in the audience are wearing these masks. But I'm the red person on the scene. And as you see, the absolutely only female in this context. And we don't have our mask, but we are in a high voltage lab. And in this lab is the building of the highest high voltage levels in the world. So this is a fantastic, exciting place to be. And the special occasion here was that it was maybe, as some of you know, is that Hitachi bought the power grid company 2 years ago. So this was a ceremony where they had like a formal celebration of that change. And at this meeting here is the people from the minister, it's the Prince of Sweden, and it's very high level people at this meeting. And I thought it was very exciting to be there. And as being my only business trip, I thought it was a bit fun. And I want to start again to say thank you for inviting me. And this is another picture where I want to highlight that we, for this special occasion, that we are also female in this world. And in the chapter in Sweden that you heard in my introduction that I've been chairing for 10 years, I was really happy to leave over to another female leader, that's Ambra Sanino, that's leading our chapter today. And I also, the other picture included here is from the last time when I had, I would say the latest time I was traveling international and gave a keynote in a Women in Power seminar. And that was in November in 2019, when we had the ISGT event in Brazil. Because for those of you that are familiar with IEEE PES, we have a new conference series, and that has been a little bit my baby, because I was making the first conference in Europe, and we had one in Manchester also the year after. And in this conference, we have a very strong tradition that we always have a VIP activity at the event. And I think that's amazing, because it makes us to meet all amazing people all over the world. So I wanted to share that with you. So for my speech today, I have put the power grid in the context of sustainability. So I will, well, first, it's a brief introduction, we will pass that, but then I talk generally about sustainable developments. And since we are now in Europe, I would like to mention the green package, which is a very, I think, important investment for us to work in that area. And then I'm mentioning in overall what is happening in the power grid to meet these sustainable developments. And at the end, I have included a few examples. I did a selection here that I included some specific information about the power grid in Sweden, where I come from. And the reason of that is because I think when we are considering the solutions, we need to have an understanding of the specific challenges and possibilities where we are, but also as a part of an international. So that's why I thought that was of interest. So let me see, and I will try to be fast. This is about me again. Maybe I can say very briefly. So I come from Sweden, so we're very close by, 1 hour later in my country than with you. But I spent quite a lot of time traveling, and I think Edwina gave that very nice picture, because I also had, like she had, one of my professors was very international. Actually, I had one professor, he's Swedish, but he moved to Zurich afterwards, Jörn Andersson, and my other professor was actually in Manchester. So I'm very happy to say that I have a very good experience of Manchester and working with you. But then I was introduced to one of his friends in power system reliability that's in Canada. So I actually spent 2 research staying in Canada for my research, and then also one in Sanford in California. And then I've been traveling, giving keynotes and speaking about my topics in all over the world. And I think that's one thing that's really exciting working as a scientist and an expert, is that there are no borders, really. I mean, we collaborate with everyone, and that's amazing. I think that's amazing. And being a part of PES, it's like a family. It's family for us. So it's very, very nice. So I hope we will have, you can ask me afterwards if you have more questions. So this is about me. I will not go through it in detail. I can just show the pictures that are 2 big things. One is the first conference I arranged. It was a long time ago, but it was a very big event. And my professor from UK, he is in the picture there in the middle. So this is the PMAPS conference. If you are in power system reliability, that I am, that is the conference. And I'm seeing some of you nodding. So I hope I will see you maybe next year at the PMAPS, because that's also our family conference. And then it's my book. I have 2 babies and a book. So that's nice. It's in asset maintenance. So I will not speak so much about that today. So I would like to start with sustainable development. We try to think that this is a driver for everything we do. And I think it's amazing to feel that I can go to work, that we can see that we are trying to do our part to contribute to this. And sometimes I mention this because it's important to understand that it's a reason. Some of the activities we do on the power grid today, it's a result of a lot of things we are changing because we are targeting sustainable development. So it's important to understand that we have made that as a choice and it has consequences and we will solve it. So that's a nice change. I have included a few pictures here that are highlighting results from its World Energy Outlook. And this is a report that I recommend. I think it's a lot of very good material that is available. This is available for you. And I'm highlighting things that I think are of interest for us from our perspective and to see that we are approaching to the right direction. So here they're highlighting the 3 key pillars for the energy system: affordability, reliability, and sustainability. And how are the drivers here? Well, the drivers are that the cost for solar PV is continuing to fall. That is an important development. The oil prices is very much dependent, I think, on politics and things like that. So we don't comment that so much. But other thing, what is really happening here? Well, we are also looking at the CO2 emissions. And here we see that the power system has a function because we want to use electricity as a replacing for the fossil. So that is also a very thing that's interesting. If we continue to look, what has happened? What are the new developments? Well, we have a lot of EVs. The EVs are coming, and they are amazing because they can do a lot of things in the system. And for some time, people were arguing, should we have EVs, should we have hybrid, etc. But that's past. Now we know we will have EVs. We have a lot of EVs. And the other thing is that we have a lot of storage technologies. So that is another technology. And then the PV. So these, I would say, are the 3 technology things that makes a lot of changes in the power system. Sometimes we can also see that some developments maybe are not as some people wish. So nuclear is a topic that's very much debated in my home country, and some people are sad when they see it's increasing, but others are happy because we get rid of the coal. So this is more political, but we can see that it's a lot of building. So we still have a lot of domination of coal, unfortunately. But we also see a lot of CCS projects. That is exciting. And biofuels. And these kind of statistics has a little bit delay. So a lot of things are happening. So we're looking at the trends. And now we come to the consequences. So what we have done in the energy portfolio is change. We have changed the portfolio. And the one of the largest impacts so far is the introduction of a lot of wind power, and we see solar. And they require a lot of flexibility in the system. So this is a key that we have to solve. The energy storage is giving some of these features that we are asking for. So moreover, we also want to wonder about the technology. And in the battery side, it has been very important to make a decision on what kind of batteries will you use, because we need to reduce the cost. And we know that the cost is reduced when we get volumes. And that's why it has been quite important to make a selection of, we are selecting this technology, we are wrapping up the production, we get down the cost, and then we can build our cars and our industries. And lithium ion batteries is the technology we're using. I can say from Sweden's perspective, we are very happy because we have one very large company that are producing now lithium battery systems, the Northvolt company. And that is a kind of interesting thing too, because they are located in a very north place in Sweden and changing the need of electricity quite a lot. So we see a lot of storage is coming on. So this is a development that's coming. So now I would like to say something more specific about Europe, what's happening in Europe. The COVID has a lot of difficulties, of course, in our societies, but I truly believe that we can always make something good of anything that happens. And for us working in the energy area, in the power grid area, a good thing is that we are accelerating. A lot of things we were planning to do, we're actually doing faster, because due to the situation, it's a lot of money that needs to be invested, and it's a lot of people we want to put in business. So what European Union did last year was to say, okay, we will make a huge investment in something we call a Green Deal package. So this investment is kind of putting in earlier some of the investment. And for us that work in the energy transition in the power grid, I think it's very, very nice, because they are making investment in our topics to do research. So a little bit more detail about the Green Deal. This is what they call an action plan. So they want to boost the efficient use of resources and move to a clean, circular economy. I will come back later on and comment on the topic of circular economy. They also talk about biodiversity and to cut the pollution. But it's also important that this is done in an investment, economic, smarter way. So it's a long-term solution. A little bit more detail here is the formulation: climate change, environmental degradation. They see it as an existential threat to Europe. And that is why they are doing these investments here. And so maybe some of your professors have worked with this. I have myself, because we were sending in a lot of applications in the beginning of the year. So we're still hoping to get some projects. Okay, so now I'm moving a little bit closer to the power system. I would like to start with this first picture to think and problematize around what is really happening here. When talking about the power grid, I normally also want to mention energy, because it's a this is a complicated topic. So a lot of people talk about energy when they actually mean electricity. So it is a little bit challenging. And I think that the reason is because when we talk about electricity, both as a fuel, but we also talk about the power grid as a facilitator, as moving energy to different parts. So in the concept of the power grid, I would say it's an infrastructure that we need to have reliability, access to electricity, but we're also talking about electricity of replacing fossil, and that's in transportation and also in industry. In industry today, they're making huge plans to use electricity in the production in order to replace a lot different steps with fossils. And this will increase the electricity consumption hugely. And this is a very big debate now. So in overall, the trends we see are the electrification, digitalization that has been with us for some time, and the new trend is circular economic. And as an example, what we mean with circular economics could be a battery. Battery is a good example that we have in the EVs. We need a very good quality in the batteries. But when those batteries are not perfect anymore, we can use them as a second lifetime. So it's becoming a business for a second lifetime of batteries where we can use them, for example, for storage. For us here, we are not really there yet because our cars are soon used to. But in California, they have already tried starting up this. So they had farms actually with used batteries that you can use for balancing either PV or wind farms. So that is a little bit new area. Material side is also, of course, very important, that you try to recycle materials. And that will be very, very important when we use a lot of material in the batteries. This is a picture that I borrowed from Vattenfall. Many of us have talked about smart grid for many years, and you see that IEEE has been a very early adopter in that, and we have a lot of initiatives in PES. And this is an early picture from the utility perspective. What is smart grid? And we can see here the different technology steps. We started with the smart meters, then we have a different automation, and we have challenges to integrate the wind, and today I talked about the energy storage. So, and we talk about the EV. So a lot of technologies here have been introduced, and we see a lot of changes in the power grid. And then this picture is a picture that I like to use to try to communicate very shortly on what is the difference, what has happened. And one specific example is that we see collaboration between different actors. This is the collaboration between a distribution system operator and battery manufacturers that do batteries for cars, because they are exactly the same batteries in this little nice i3 in the wind farm that Vattenfall runs. So we're using batteries in a new perspective. And I think that is a good example on what is changing here. This picture is more related to scientifically, what are we doing? What are the challenges? The figure here I'm very proud of because it's a figure we have done. We are actually working on a proposal very hard. And this is our key picture in that proposal. And what we want to show here is that we see that the power grid is something where this topic comes together. I was mentioning the circular economics, that we have to think, because in past we really did like this. We were designing excellent equipment and then we put them in operation until the end of life. But that is not the case anymore. Now we design things, but when we design them, we also have to consider what should we do with the equipment after we can use it in this specific function. So when we are doing the design, the calculation, the operation, everything, we have to think in this, what we say, circular economics. So that is a new perspective. So if you look more technically, we would have two different parts we see of the grid. One is more related to the software. It's the intelligence in it, where we have a lot of new ways to assess the grid. We're doing the calculations. It's all about machine learning technology. We can use 5G. Maybe we have wireless power grid. So this is a lot of new things. The other one is more technical, that we have a flexible power grid, that we can integrate wind, we can integrate solar, we can integrate EVs, and we use a lot of power electronics to make this happen when we need to balance this. So this is a more technical hardware that we need to balance. And the third topic is on the material level, that we are further developing the high voltage technology. It could be the cables, the disconnectors, circuits, the lines, etc. And we need to develop that with a perspective of high performance and the circular economics. So here comes a little bit of wording, but what we see in the changes here is really, one is change on the generation side, and the other one is how we use electricity, and also that we see the power system as an integrated part of the energy system. Because if you reflect back on the goals are for the society. So if the society becomes sustainable, we need a sustainable energy system. And to make a sustainable energy system, we would need the electric power. So the electric power grid is a part of the energy system. And that makes it a little bit more complicated, but also a lot of new possibilities. So we see that we have a lot of new form of usage of electricity. And I mentioned before the transportation. The other trend we can say is that we have a very large scale development. And this is, for example, in the offshore wind. When we do this transition, we need to find electricity production that is very cost efficient. And today I would say offshore wind is a really good, that it's the technology we have today that's very cost efficient, large scale. But of course, that also creates challenges that we work with. We also see that we have a lot with PV on existing areas like rooftop, things like that. The digitalization I mentioned before, that gives us a lot of opportunities to control, to make automation, and also to provide for the customers a lot of new information and services that they didn't have before. Another trend is that we see that we have a lot of new ways to measure and control the system. We have the meters I mentioned before, and there are also other ways to measure in the system, to measure the frequency in the system. And in overall, we would say that we have a lot of trends that we can assess the health. We can do diagnostic measurements on the equipment in the system. So these were a lot of capturing some trends that are changing in the system. So what I wanted now is to go back and think, how would this impact on a specific area? And then I'm mentioning Sweden, where I come from. So basically, we have a lot of targets ourselves. It's not different from others. What's different from us is that we have a lot of resources that are sustainable because we have a lot of hydro. Sweden is built on hydro, and then we built a little bit of nuclear in the 80s when that was very popular. So what we are doing now is to change some of the nuclear, maybe all, we don't know, with wind. So we're changing our portfolio, and we have quite high goals. We are having a goal of 100% renewable in 2040. Very briefly about our system is that if we look in Europe, Sweden has geographically a huge country with very long lines, but we have very little people. So our power system has a lot of lines. So that has been really important for us. And that is why we have a tradition to develop a lot of technology to reduce the losses, to do an efficient way here. And as I mentioned before, Ludvika has been a historically development in the HVDC area. So it's around 15,000 kilometers of lines today. This is a snapshot on, this is from around a month ago. I normally, because I'm very interested in this, I can go in and see how is the flow to just now, exactly now in the system. And this is available from the TSO. And at this specific time in the morning, we were actually importing a little bit. And you can see here the flow between our countries. And the data here is that at this specific time point, we had 30% power from nuclear and around 50 from hydro. And wind was only 8. I was in and looked for a week ago, and then wind was 20%. So wind today is, it could be up to 20%, but it's still very varying. And it shows that we need a system where we have a lot of flexibility in the system to be able to handle this. And this creates a lot of debate because when it's cold in Sweden and it's not windy, we might have a trouble with our capacity. In order to do that, the national grid are buying extra capacity from a power thermal, and this is actually a fossil. So every time this happens, it's a big debate in the country. And being a professor, it means that the journalists are calling us and they want to ask, what do you think about this and this and this? And everyone seems surprised, but they shouldn't be, because the decision to do this has been taken by the government for many years ago. So basically in Sweden today, we have a situation where we need to have like a backup for capacity in cold days. And a lot of people are not happy with that, but it's a cost thing. So, so this is kind of interesting to see in different perspectives. So I wanted to come back just to remind us that we are part of the European system. And again, I would like to recommend, if you're excited in this topic, to look at the ENTSO-E web pages, because they have a lot of very interesting tools. This is a tool actually where you can play around and look at the power flow in Europe. So the last slides for my presentation, I'm just showing you a few, and now my kids are calling me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry for that. In these times, everyone is working home. Yes. Okay, so I'm concluding my presentation with a couple of examples of things we do in research. And I thought they could be a bit exciting just to see the variety of the different topics. So this is a very early paper that we did, which is actually playing around a little bit because we are testing smart meters. We are testing the possibility of switching up customers. And we are actually doing it in a real system. And what we could observe is that although we have a lot of advanced technology here, it actually doesn't really work as we think. And I think this is a normally very good learning, that we need to actually really to apply things in reality, because otherwise we don't really understand it. And that was one learning from this. So the overall goal is that we believe that if the utility have this equipment, they can run their system more efficient because you can cut off customers, you can work on this flexibility in the grid, but it's still some work left to make it happen properly. This is another early paper that we are also a bit exciting, I think, is when we are showing that EVs, that if we have different strategies on EVs, if we connect them, we can actually support the grid. And I think this is a good perspective because normally a lot of people are complaining on the EVs, and we wanted to show that they can actually be helpful for the grid as a backup and also to handle the peaks. I also want to mention Gotland, because Gotland is an island. When you come to Sweden next time, maybe you can go there. It's a very specific little, well, it's a huge island, and we have the first HVDC long distance cable, which put in operation here, 1950s. So Gotland has been for us a case for smart grid, an early case, and the challenges here was how can we further build more capacity in an existing grid? How can we do that without needing to do a lot of investments in the grid? So the idea was to use a lot of possibilities with flexibility. Could we include the smartness in the wind for the connection, for the frequency handling? Could we use energy storage? Could we use dynamic rating? So these kind of studies that we have worked on. And today there are a lot of practical initiatives at Gotland trying to do this kind of things from people living there. So it's very, very nice. Finally included also one case from a research when we are trying to predict. This is a research for predicting the future. And I said we have a lot of more information, so we can do much smarter models on what will happen in the future based on the data. And the final example moves us to Zambia. And we are actually hoping to get funding because we were writing a proposal to build actually power grids in Africa. And the vision I have here is that it will be the same technology that we also will build in Sweden in small scale. And this is very revolutionary, I think, because we want really to have very simple, basic, small scale, local power system that could be built. And what we believe in future is that this could be done and that we can use this in the local energy systems anywhere in the world. And this is the first paper we have done, and this together with one of my IEEE friends, Henry in Seattle. So this is also an example on what IEEE is doing, because IEEE have done a lot of very nice work in Africa to support in the electrification. And one of my close friends, where I met in IEEE activities, we are now trying to work on this jointly. So summary of my talk is that I would like to underline the reason, the motivation for what we do for the sustainability. I'm trying to highlight some of the electrification, the developments in the power grid. And I wanted to give a specific example just to show on what are the different challenges we have. I want to underline that it's a numerous of topics we can work on research and development, and it's really exciting areas. So I would like to say thank you. And then if I'm allowed, I can also say that I am actually a candidate for the next president-elect, and you are of course very welcome to vote for me eventually. So, but if you have any kind of questions or anything, you're welcome to contact me. And email is the best choice. But if you come to PMAPS next year, I hope to see you there, because I will definitely go there. So that's great. So maybe I stop sharing, and then if you have questions, we have a little bit of time. It's so much nicer to see you than see myself only.
All right. Thank you, Professor Lin. I think we have one question in the chat. The question is, in a more sustainable grid, you explain that flexibility of hardware is given by solar and wind generation and flexible load as EVs. However, can you explain how the flexibility principle is driving the development of the infrastructure component of the system, like transmission or distribution networks? Thank you.
Oh, well, that's an interesting question. I think, I mean, if I look at the PV, PV would be a generation. I mean, that will contribute to generation, and the wind would contribute to generation. When I talk about flexibility, I actually meant in that context that we need to solve the flexibility. So we need to balance the production. And the flexibility could typically be that we have a storage. So that's the short-term flexibility. But another flexibility could be that we have other users. So we could have a household. So we could, for example, have a household, and they might have their own PVs and their own storage. So they might be able to disconnect. So in that case, indirectly, their PV will contribute to flexibility because they will disconnect a customer with their own. So I think the flexibility will be in a lot of different ways. And that is very exciting, but it's also difficult to model. So we have to be careful. And that's why I think in my role as a professor, I try quite a lot to support people like journalists and people like that, because they normally have one perspective, and it's not so easy to understand the consequences of something if you only have knowledge on one perspective. So it will be very complicated, but you can truly get flexibility from PV. Yes.
And
Did
may I
that?
ask,
Yes.
if in
Can I add one comment here on flexibility? Yeah, Lena, appreciate it. You mentioned remote switching with the smart meters. I think that's the first thing we ought to do, because you all heard Texas had a rolling, right, devastating event in February because they didn't have this. They didn't have this remote switching with the smart meters. They had lots of smart meters, but when they asked for 20,000 megawatts load shedding during the extreme cold condition, they cannot rotate because they cannot remote control the load, or they don't have the switching, remote switching. And they had to keep the 25% of end frequency load shedding, right? Some of the critical loads they cannot shed. So by the time that they shed the 20,000 megawatts, you see downtown, for instance, Austin or Dallas, lots of commercial buildings, they actually the entire night, those commercial buildings were lit up. And on the other side of the town, all the residential areas where they need the power most, they didn't have any electricity because they cannot switch these critical load off the feeders. And so I just wanted to emphasize what you mentioned earlier. This is a great research topic. We need to put these remote switching into the right away. And this will be the first thing. I mean, if I'm the queen or the king, this is the first thing I would do.
Yes.
Doctor, can I ask a question, Dr. Dina?
Yeah, please.
It's a pleasure for me to have once again at your webinar presentation a few months ago, another webinar, if you remember me, and asking about reliability assessment and climate change.
Very nice.
I have a question about the planning until 2050 in Europe for sustainable grid. My question is about that. Global warming continue, and now we have some warm wave in Europe that experienced in the year before, and the real experience we had in Middle East, in Iran, because of the high temperature, the PV panel is deformating after 5 years, and they should be recycled, and they are unusable because they're very low efficiency and could recycle. My question is that in the future, with this global warming we have now experienced, maybe the European Union have experienced that challenges, maybe because of high temperature in the summer, there's deformation, and solar PVs, and this could not be sustainable. Maybe there's some challenges with low efficiency PVs in the future. What do you think?
Well, thank you so much for your question. I think this is a very important topic that we will work on recycling. And I think we are in the beginning. We are in the beginning because we haven't really seen yet what to come. And I mean, what you're sharing, the experience now, is something we don't know yet. So I mean, when I listen to you, I think, oh, this is exciting. And I think I should create a project and get some students looking at it because it's very interesting. But I would say we don't have that experience yet. But I think it's a very important topic. It's very, very important because if we can't handle that, we will fail.
Yeah.
I mean, it will fail. So it's very, very important. I mentioned in the introduction that one of my roles at KTH is that I'm director of our what we call energy platform. So I'm working with other scientists at KTH in energy, and there is a group. It's a new small group, and they're working on recycling of material. And I'm actually getting very exciting, and I try to encourage them to work in our field. And I would say it's not easy because I get a lot of comments. I mean, it's actually interesting. I have a lot of comments from colleagues, and they say, well, this is not of interest, and that's basic. And so it's, I would say, scientifically, it's a challenge because when there are new topics, it's not everyone that sees the possibility in it. So it takes a bit of time, but we have a group that's working on that, and I'm very excited about it. So you can contact me if you have ideas, but I would say we don't know really, but I think it's very, very important, very, very important area. Thank you so much.
Can I share with you some news again about and experience about this prevalent challenges in our country about deformation of PV solar in
I think well, I think email is best. Yes.
I will email you again.
Please do that. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure for me for your nice adaptation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your great presentation.
Thank you so much.
Could I ask a question?
Please, Elena.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. I would like to ask a question also regarding the flexibility. How mature the regulation and market in Sweden is with respect to flexibility services at both transmission and distribution level? So is this already being developed, or is it yet to be developed? Sorry. So is there any, let's say, demand side flexibility, whether this is loads or storage or DGs? So are they participating already at the distribution or transmission level, or they are yet to?
Yes, so thank you, Jelena, for your question. I would say like this, that, and I know Jessica, this is more her field, but from Sweden perspective, I would say, yes, we have things ongoing. It's like some of them are kind of demonstrations. We were part of an EU project that was presented last year. It's called Coordinate. And in that project, we had both the TZO, we have different local communities and the DZO, and they have created a couple of different cases with flexibility. And I think it's really successful. They had in Stockholm now, they had a call where people could actually come in with proposals, ideas on how they could contribute in the flexibility. I can't give you a number, how much, that's not in my mind, but I can tell you that we have a lot, and you can welcome to contact me, and I can put you in contact with some other people that have the specific knowledge. But it's really coming. I'm not an expert in markets, but what I can say is that we have a lot of things that need to be changed because they are changing the regulations in Europe, and then they realize that our regulation is not really matching. So I know that we have now one governmental initiative where we have we need to develop some kind of measures how we calculate the reliability, and that is something that people like me, we have wanted for ages to do that. And I know, I mean, with Jessica's background, you have a good knowledge in that, because in Sweden, we don't have, we actually, they say it's a high reliability, but we don't have any measurements, and it's no requirement on that. And that is something we need to change. And that is part of things of creating a flexibility, is that we need to have more details on what we really have. So it was a long answer, but I hope you got some input. And
yes,
welcome. Do you do research in this work? Or?
Yeah, so I am interested, especially in demand side flexibility.
Good.
That is why I'm asking.
Yeah, great. So who is your professor? Who do you work with?
I work with Professor Milanovic.
Of course.
And
so that's nice.
Yeah, and we have a
nice.
We have a Horizon 2020 project that is going and looking into flexibility at the transmission level. So I'm asking because we are looking at one region in Europe where regulation is still missing in that respect. So this is why I was wondering about the situation in Sweden.
Okay. Yeah, but then I think send me a note, because the coordinate project you will find, and they will have some publications this year at CIRED meeting where you can get good references to what they have done. At least 2 papers, I think, will be in CIRED.
Great, thank you.
Good. Yes, thank you. So I guess we are almost at the end. Maybe you would like to say some closure words, but
okay, I think we
have
can
a quick comment. Can I say add a quick comment? Because I think Jelena asked a good question earlier to Edwina about CGRE and IEEE. So I didn't get a chance to answer, but I think that you can tell we have Lena, Edwina, they're running for PES president. At a CGRE, we would never be able to do that, because the structure and the political influence that the country backing, there's nothing at PES like that. We're individual based membership, and if you want to volunteer, contribute, you have a talent like Lena and Elvina, you want to commit. And I just wanted to share the story with you. When I became a secretary, and Lena was the PES secretary before me, so I was trying to do a shadow at the last board meeting, and she had her baby, the first baby, with her. During the break, she would fed her baby. And then after that, this is how the women is juggling, like Nina was saying earlier. And that's how we kind of got to where we are. It's a lot, but we can do it. At a CGRE, you wouldn't be able to do it, because, like you said, it's a committee structure, and there's a lot of a political will behind but IEEE is an individual-based organization. So if you want to go higher and be a leader, be a famous professor or researcher, you can do it here easily. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment, Jessica. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We really appreciate this, the presentations given by our guest speakers. I believe our audience can learn something from the speakers on their career paths, about the PES and the women in power, the benefits of joining them, and have some insights about the future network and the sustainability future. So I would like to encourage all the audience to fill in this feedback form, so that we will know what we were doing good and what we can improve. And also, please follow the 2 organizing committees by following the social medias and websites. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you from Women in Power as well.
Yes.
Thank you all. Thank you, Lina.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jelena.
Everyone.
Yes. Thank you so
And
much.
have a nice time. Bye
Yes.
bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And thank you again, Kui, for organizing everything. To
Thank
you and your team, well done.